Swimming Upstream, episode 59. We have just wrapped up day one of a full slate of minor league baseball. We are so back. This podcast is brought to you by MPT College Consulting. Make sure to go check them out at mptcollegeconsulting.com and just check them out. Make sure you go into the website, do a free consultation. But we are back. MILB is back, Alex. A lot to talk about. We're going to dive into each level really quickly, go through the rosters and go through a couple takeaways from day one. Carver, what's up, man? I mean, it's good to be back on here and talk some minor league ball.
Yeah, best day of the year, right? Full minor league. Well, I guess second minor league opening day, but first day for full minor leagues.
Yeah.
So we saw every level play today. It was pretty cool. Saw some good stuff, which I'm sure we're going to get to today. And it's just great to be back, like you said, for a full slate of minor league action. So I'm excited to talk about it. I'm excited to be with you to talk about it, especially, and we'll go through it together. So let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. As always, make sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on all the socials. Fish on the Farm, Fish on First. Wherever you are listening to this on audio platform, make sure to give it a 5-star review and just share it to everyone you can. You know, we dive in from the DSL all the way up to AAA and as well the Major League team, but we specify today on only prospects here. So let's start with low A Jupiter Hammerheads. They got off to a 5-0 lead and ended up blowing it 6-5. But I think the main story of the night will be Mr. Thomas White, who had himself a very nice start for the most part, had a little bit of control issues, goes 3 2/3, 3 hits, 0 runs, 4 walks, 6 strikeouts, 71 pitches thrown. Really relied on that fastball for the most part. Then with a little bit of that slider changeup combo. A lot to like there, Alex, from Thomas. But, I think towards the back end of his start is where we really started seeing those control and command issues.
Yeah, I really don't think he had his best pitch here. And the fact that he was still able to go out and do what he did was fantastic. So I really don't think he had his best control and command of his, curveball, slider, whatever you want to call it. He calls it kind of a mix, like a slurvy curveball. So, yeah, I don't think he had the best command of that pitch. If you look at the pitch map, it will show you that he really didn't have the command of what I think is his best pitch. He will tell you that his best pitch is his fastball, which, like you said today, just now, Kevin, it was okay. Command of that was okay. I think that his best secondary, at least, and probably I think his best pitch is that slider curveball. If he has that pitch, man, from that high left-hand arm slot, that's a really, really hard pitch for guys to pick up on. So I think that's going to be his best pitch if it is not already. And he really didn't have the full command of that pitch today. But other than that, he did rely on the fastball, like you said. Probably what led to the 4 walks is just the need to rely on a singular pitch. Did try to mix in everything else, a little bit of the changeup you saw. But really that main pitch for him is that breaker that's going to really fool guys and get them off balance. So I don't think he had the best command and control of that pitch today. Probably what led to the 4 walks, but still, even though he didn't have his best stuff, got 6 strikeouts. It was a decent night for him. First outing of the season. I think it was pretty good. But I think this is a guy that's going to get even better as the season goes along when he gets that pitch fully reined in, that slider curveball fully reined in. Is going to be even better. So really encouraging first start, even though he didn't have his best, I don't think. Still got 6 strikeouts. So yeah, super cool. I think this guy's going to be the top prospect in the organization in our next rankings that we do. We've all agreed on that already, I think.
Yep.
Behind the scenes. So this guy's really good. No knock on Noble. He's going to go tomorrow. But yeah, super, super cool. Good night for Thomas, even though he didn't have his best, still very good. So nothing to worry about with this guy.
Exactly. And I think that's what really stands out the most. Even if it wasn't his sharpest night, it was still really, really good stuff. I mean, the guy topped out at 97.6 on that fastball. And, a little surprised he didn't go much more to his breaking stuff. Maybe it was just more to get a feel of, game one, opening day. But again, I mean, he could have had a chance to really cement himself and have a very, very good start. I mean, I think we're going to talk about a pitcher in the next level who probably had a better start than him and Carson Milbrandt. But with White, it was really just a walk. I mean, he only gave up, 3 hits on the night? Like, it was a really good start. But let's look at this on the offensive side of things, Alex. And let's talk about Jordan McCants. It's the first home run for the Jupiter Hammerheads of the season. It was on the 5th pitch of the at-bat, a 2-2 count. Quinn Matthews of the Palm Beach Cardinals goes with the changeup, and Mr. Jordan McCants hits it 100 miles off the bat. He goes 380 feet deep, and I mean, couldn't have asked much more from him on the day. I think he had a very good day for himself too. He had a base hit, had a walk, got on base due to I believe an error. So Jordan McCann's already off to a good start, Alex.
Yeah, probably one of the most productive nights across the Marlins minor league levels tonight for Mr. McCants. 4 at bats, he gets 2 hits, scores 3 runs, 5 total bases, hits the home run, gets a walk, like you said, Kevin. So, man, this guy was on base regularly throughout the night in a hard to hit environment, as you know, and then of course gets a home run, which is fantastic for this guy. Not really known as a home run hitter. Just 2 home runs before tonight. Already is halfway to his 2023 total, and gets one out in hard to hit in Jupiter, Roger Dean Chevrolet Stadium. So super cool for Jordan. We talked to him a lot actually during spring training. And really what he said last year was the problem is that he was just kept trying to not trying to, but what he did was got away from him, like what got him here, right? Got away from the player that he was as a high schooler, maybe trying to do a little bit too much, especially offensively. Was learning a new position as well, or pretty much a new position at third base, especially regularly. So that probably added into it as well. So yeah, just a guy that needed to get back to his roots. Did it during spring training. You see it pay off immediately, and that's awesome for Jordan McCann. So I still have a lot of hope for Jordan. Super cool guy, lots of tools, lots of talent. Just to get back to that swing that he had during high school is so encouraging rather than trying to be this uppercut power guy, which is really not in his makeup. So, really, really cool to see Jordan succeed immediately. Still just 21 and still just tons of time. So awesome for Jordan. Glad to see him get off to a really, really good start tonight. Like I said, probably one of the most productive nights across minor leagues for Jordan, and super cool for him. I'm happy for him. And we'll see what he does the rest of the way. But this is a great start for McCants. I think this is a guy, if he continues to succeed, I think you'll see him pushed up pretty quickly to Beloit. I don't think this guy will hang around long if he continues to succeed, but that's going to be up to more than one game, right? We got to continue to see it, but it looked good tonight, and it looked good in spring. So I'm happy to see McCants starting to succeed and get back to that player that he was in high school and just starting to be himself a little bit more.
Yeah, and then the interesting part is too that he mentioned this. I think it was either in spring training or it was actually no, it was during the Fish Fest for the Wahoos. He was mentioning how much he was mentioning third base, and today he goes into second base. So definitely interesting there. I think that's definitely something to monitor because still one of the biggest issues with McCants is where will he find his home defensively, and that's hopefully second base. But really would be nice to have him at third or some sort of versatility there where he could play you both. I mean, fortunately, he's just not a shortstop anymore. It's just definitely tough for him there. But again, very productive night for Jordan McCants. I think the other guy, and I know you wanted to shout him out because I know you did on Twitter, is Sam Prater, who also hit a home run. I know he'd been dealing with a lot of injuries through these past couple of years. Alex, just to see Prater do what he did tonight.
Yeah, it's just a lot of missed time overall, right? So over the course of 2022 and 2023, this guy missed a ton of time. So to just see him back and in this kind of shape to be able to hit this pretty damn far home run and then do this pretty monstrous bat flip, super cool for this guy. He's got to feel really good. It's just tons and tons and tons of missed time. Injuries, I think some other stuff was mixed in there as well. Not going to go into detail on what that was, but I think there was a couple of other things mixed in there as well for this guy. But just super cool to see him back and successful is the main thing for Sam Prater. Pretty cool, man. Just a raucous last 2 years for this guy. Just nothing connected. Didn't really sync up. Wasn't really healthy all the way. Wasn't really able to be all the way there. And then to see him back tonight in his first game to hit this home run, I know this had to feel good for this guy. So pretty cool. A lot of turbulent times for this guy in the last 2 years. Just to see him back and to do this in his first game is awesome, and I'm happy for him.
Yeah, and really limited time, but again, high strikeout rates this past season in 45 games, which is 158 plate appearances, 26.6 strikeout percentage at the low A level. So I mean, he's really gonna have to get it going, but in such a depleted system, specifically in catching, he's gonna have a good chance to move up really quick, and a start like that, it's really gonna help him out. Alex, let's take a look quickly just at the roster in general. I mean, this is probably going to be one of the more fun teams we're going to watch or cover this season. Obviously highlighted by Thomas White and Noble Meyer. Who else stands out to you in this roster for the Jumbo Shrimp? I mean, oof, Hammerheads.
Yeah, for sure. So definitely John Cruz is kind of the main guy you kind of look at, or one of the main guys that you look at that came over to the Marlins in a trade. This guy is still in his teenage years and has all the potential in the world. It's super, super cool to see this guy at a full season level. We're going to see how it plays over the course of a full season. So we're going to see this guy regularly. I think he's going to be out there every day. I know he can play pretty much all over in the outfield. So I think this guy's going to be pretty much out there every day. And you're going to see what this guy can do on a full season basis, which is going to be for the first time in his career. So really excited about John Cruz. That guy is definitely a guy who can do a lot of things if he's at his full potential. So I am excited about John Cruz, especially with how developed his swing already is, with the power potential that he already has. That guy could be very, very good. And he's a very exciting prospect that we're just now getting to know in the Marlins organization. But from the things that we see and historical output that we've seen from this guy could be really, really good. So I'm excited for John Cruz. Another guy, of course, you see Noble and Thomas. We'll see Noble tomorrow, like I said. But another guy that I want to mention is Mark Coley. This guy's kind of under the radar. I don't think he gets the attention that he should get.
Had a double
this guy that was drafted last year. He's back in Jupiter now. I thought he could have gone up to single A advanced, but they keep him back in Jupiter, which is okay. Gets a double tonight, like you said, Kevin. This guy's got a pretty sweet power swing. I think the swing could promote a lot of power for this guy. It's huge uppercut. There's a lot of uppercut to it. Going to need to rein it in. Going to need to not try to do too much, like we said last year for McCants. I don't want this guy to fall into the same trap, which we sometimes see from guys that are permeating to the major league level or pro level, I guess I should say. But yeah, Mark Coley is definitely a guy to watch for sure. I know he was doing some light work in spring training. So I'm doing a lot of light work along with McCants, so I think it was dealing with hamstring. But these guys seem to be 100%. They seem to be ready to go. And yeah, you saw McCants tonight. You saw Coley tonight. I think this team's really exciting, man. It's a lot of under the radar prospects. It's not really guys that you would think that are like these top 100 MILB prospects, but these guys got some talent, man. And I'm excited to see some of these guys come back and maybe pop back into that top 100 or at least organizational top 30 here over the course of this year. I never lost hope in McCants. I like Mark Coley a lot. Vredenberg, we're going to have to see what he does with reining in his levers. I think there's a little bit that he needs to do with, just managing his size. I think is the main thing for Vredenberg. But yeah, there's tons of talent on this team. I really do think that this is probably, all these teams are there's something to watch, but I think this team has the most to watch in the Marlins organization is this low A level. I really like this Hammerheads roster. I think it's going to be a fun team to watch.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. And I'm glad you mentioned John Cruz because it's funny enough, we really haven't recorded in such a long time that, that John Cruz trade went down. A lot to like with the guy too. I think you mentioned the swing, and we were trying to find out where we were going to rank this guy. And you kind of wanted to put him originally like in the 20s. I said, I think it's a little more advanced than that, man. And we wanted to put him over Valor, under Valor. We won't say where we ended up putting him, but we put him up pretty high at the end. I think we came to a pretty good agreement just looking at the balance in opposite field percentage and that pull power. It's not so much pull as it is, you see from, for example, like a Brock Vredenberg or someone like his age. He's just 18 or 19 years old. He's still very young. And to be doing what he's doing at this level is very, very impressive. I know he struggled tonight. He went 0 for 4 with 1 walk and 2 strikeouts. So not a great Jupiter Hammerheads debut or even Marlins organizational debut. You quickly mentioned Mark Coley. He had that RBI double today. 2 strikeouts, unfortunately, though. And then Brock Vredenberg went 1 for 3 with 2 walks, 1 hit. So not too shabby for Brock. The bullpen, I'm very excited to see what Xavier Meacham does. This is someone who really stood out to me during spring training. I think it did to you as well, Carver. And this is a guy who I'm very, very excited to watch. Pitched today, actually. He went 1 1/3, struck out 1, didn't give up a hit. So came in relief for Thomas White when he got into a little bit of trouble there. Only other 2 guys I kind of want to shout out here. Well, first of all, I think it's worth noting Victor Mesa Jr. on a rehab assignment. That's why he is shown on the opening day roster, dealing with a little ankle injury. So I think he had a couple hits tonight. He went 1 for 4 with 1 hit and 2 walks, 1 strikeout. So not too bad for Mr. Mesa Jr. He should be back in AAA soon. Ryan Ignaffo making that transition fully to catcher. He now starts at low A. He was at single A last year. Carmen Lane, new guy as well. He was in the FCL. He should be going up pretty soon as well, just age wise. And Uriel Martinez, this is a guy I'm very excited to see, Alex. We'll see what happens with him there. But anything else you want to highlight on this roster or even that first game before we move on to single A?
I guess the only other thing we could call out real quick, again, like I said, we'll see Noble tomorrow. We all know about him. We saw Thomas tonight. We talked about him. You'll see Jake Brooks on Sunday, by the way. That's going to be their starter on Sunday. But the only other guy I wanted to call out is Colby Shade. This guy, he was drafted last year and didn't play at all. I think he was dealing with a hand or wrist injury or something like that. So didn't play at all, but saw him in spring training. And this guy's got some really good bat speed and can play all three outfield spots. So keep an eye on him. Another under the radar guy that nobody's talking about. And then Jake DeLeo, who had an amazing spring training. He got into a big league game and hit a home run. And then the day after he hit 2 on a backfields game. So we talked to him in spring. You can see that interview on Twitter and stuff like that. So yeah, that guy as well as another guy to kind of look at. Really exciting outfield overall. And then you get Victor Mesa Jr. in the mix. Like what? Like, just a really cool outfield for Jupiter. A lot of talent there. A lot of talent all over. So I'm really excited for the Hammerheads and how they go about things this year. I think overall, though, what I would say for that team and from where the Marlins are as an organization is you don't see a lot of challenge. Only one member of the 2023 draft class that they challenged to a new level. So they're going to have to challenge guys eventually. You see a lot of that talent still sticking back at the lower levels. They're going to have to challenge guys eventually to new levels. So we'll see how they do that throughout the year. Obviously they're cultivating talent and trying to get the most out of these guys, which I understand, but at some point you got to try to challenge older guys. Like Shade is 22. Of course, you're not going to put him up in, double A to start his pro career, but they probably could have put him in single A advanced, right? And make room for another guy, but they don't do it. Maybe Pagetto or somebody like that. They don't do it. They stick with him to make his debut in low A. But like I said, there's going to be moving parts at that level throughout the year. So even though it's an exciting roster to start the year, I think there will be a lot of movement, especially at that level as we go throughout 2024.
All righty, let's move on to High A Beloit. They won their game in pretty much dramatic fashion. They went into a final score of, I want to say 3-1. Joe Mack hit a solo home run. And then you have my boy, Torrin Montgomery, hitting a 2-run bomb right after him. Yiddi Cappe got on base, so good to see that. Yiddi ended up going 2 for 4 with 2 hits, only 1 strikeout, so good start of the season for him. But I think the story of the day, or the story of minor league baseball for the Marlins was really Carson Milbrandt. 5 innings, 2 hits, no runs, no earned, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. He looked really damn good, Alex. I mean, what you like about Mr. Carson Milbrandt? I think this is a guy who soon enough in our mid-season rankings may see a quick rise if he continues to pitch the way he did tonight.
Yeah, it's the walk count that's most encouraging. This guy's main issue in years past has been his control and command. And to see him rein it in like he did tonight and go 5 innings with, what'd you say, like 2, I think it was just 2 walks or something like that. One walk. There you go. Even better. It was very, very, very good. So, yeah, awesome control and command. That was his main focus. Going to need to see how he does it with all of his pitches. I know he was throwing mostly fastball, breaking ball. I think it was slider in spring training. But we're going to need to see how he reins it in fully with the rest of his arsenal because he's got like 4 pitches at least. So we'll see how he reins it in. We didn't have StatCast tonight, so I don't know exactly what he was throwing, so I can't tell you that. But yeah, just to see that this guy had the control and command that he did through 5 innings, hopefully with all of his pitches, or at least the most of his pitches that he could have, is really, really awesome. Got a really good fastball. It's probably his best pitch. He's got slider, curveball, and changeup as well. So really, really good to see this guy just work through 5 innings in a start right out of the gate and not walk a lot of guys. That was his main issue. That's been his main issue. And to see it really come together for him tonight, it kind of just shows that, hey, what I was doing in spring training, the work I did in spring training is going to pay off. It looked good in spring training as well. So from what I saw, that's going to be the main thing to watch for Carson. But this guy's got good stuff. It's really good. And we'll see how he kind of goes throughout the rest of the year. But I was really encouraged to see just control and command numbers permeate for Carson tonight for what we saw in spring. It was really cool.
Yep. Another guy, I think we'll keep it on the pitching side for a little bit. Holt Jones, I know we've had our are highs and lows with him, but got to give him props tonight. 2 innings, doesn't allow a single hit, no runs, 2 strikeouts. Then you have Edgar Sanchez. You may know a little bit more about him than I do. Only gave up 1 hit, 1 strikeout. And then you had, I think it's Josh White. I want to say, yes, Josh White. He was I think he was in that 2020. He was at draft with, I want to say Barry and or Watson. And he goes 1 inning, 2 hits, 1 run, 1 earned, 1 walk, no strikeouts, but gets the job done, gets the save. But let's quickly go on the hitting side, talk about Joe Mack. This is a guy who we actually removed from our top 30. We just weren't very high on him. We know the one guy who wanted to keep him was Eli, but I think us three, you, Isaac, and I were all pretty convinced that he should be gone from the list. But has a home run tonight, has a double, goes 2 for 4. What do you think about Mr. Joe Mack, Alex?
Yeah, it looked a little bit better in spring training. Definitely just making a little bit more contact. The modicum of being like a lefty hitting, righty throwing catcher is always interesting to me, and that's what this guy is. But like we've said about other players, still just 21, so there's still tons of time as a high school catcher. And if you know anything about high school catchers, they take a long time sometimes to develop offensively. It happened with Bill Banfield, and look where he is now. So to see Joe come out of the gate and have 2 extra base hits, super cool, man. Awesome for him. Glad to see it. I'm not out on Joe Mack and never have been, just because he's a high school catcher. And like I said, it sometimes takes him a long time to develop offensively. But today was cool. He's repeating a level that he spent all year last year at, though, so keep that in mind. So he knows this level pretty well. Will it happen long term? We're going to have to see. But glad to see it start tonight. I think he's pretty damn good defensively, and we'll see how he continues to develop throughout the year. I think he'll probably spend most of the first half with Beloit, and then if it permeates for him, they're going to have to do something with Paul McIntosh at AA, because Joe Mack needs regular playing time. So there's a lot of traffic there with catchers, especially with Banfield back in AAA. So we're going to have to see what happens with the traffic that they do with catchers, but I would expect Mack to spend most of this year, at least the first half, maybe even more, in the single A advanced level. No reason to really rush him. Still just 21. Get this guy comfortable. Make sure his offense is going to permeate. We'll see what happens. I think the Marlins would be smart to keep this guy at single A advanced for a full second year, and just see how the bat can fully develop. But
I think the interesting case with Mack is that maybe you could look at what happened with Bennett Hostetler last year. And I know it's a different type of defensive look, but offensively, I mean, Hostetler, man, he was really bad at the high A level. And it looks like this is the case with a lot of guys. Maybe you could back me up here, but a lot of guys struggle at Beloit. And a big reason of that is obviously the weather. And then you go to Pensacola, and all of a sudden, which AA expected to be arguably one of the hardest levels to hit in, is where they really find the success. Barry, I know we'll talk about him soon because he had his moment today. He kind of looked a little bit better going from high A to the Beloit. I mean to AA. But then you have Bennett Hostetler, and he looked like a completely different offensive player. So maybe it helps out Mack a little bit making that transition. But again, just 21. I know you're not out on him. I'm kind of I don't know if he really gets it going. I may jump back on the Joe Mack train, but aside from that, good for him. Really well deserved. That guy has been working hard. He caught a great game too, with Carson Milbrandt. Let's talk about Torrin Montgomery, man. I think it has to happen. He's your boy. 2-run shot. He was the only Beloit Skycarp to not strike out. And I'm gonna look back. Yeah, he was the only one who didn't strike out. I think struck out once. All right, that may have been very late in the game, but either way, Torrin, 2-run shot, lost a lot of weight in the offseason, but never lost that power. Made a lot of adjustments. We spoke to him a couple times during the spring, Alex. Big opening day for him.
Yeah, no, super cool. Like, this guy showed up first day of camp. He was actually there kind of early, like a couple days before spring camp started. And I was like, who the heck is this guy? Does not look anything the way that he looked in 2023. Slimmed down a lot, but like you said, Kevin, obviously didn't lose the power, because look what he did tonight. So what he also said is trying not to force power and just trying to get to his lower body a little bit more and make it work for him while taking what he can get, and just let the power come naturally. So super cool to see Torrin off to a really good start as well. One of the nicest guys that you'll ever meet. Awesome dude. Hope he's dealing with the cold weather as best as he can. I know he was there in January for their Sky Carp Fest or whatever it is for fans, where he was signing autographs and stuff. And he was like, man, I had to bring like 7 winter coats. And I when he got assigned back to Beloit, I was like, dude, you got those coats back? He's like, yep. So he's bundled up, but yeah, no, it's going to work, man. As long as he's staying warm, he's doing good. And it seems like that's what's happening. So super cool to see Torrance succeed. First day of the season. Still has that power, even though he's lost 30 pounds, still's got that power. Defensively limited. It's first base only or DH. So he's going to have to make the offense go to work for him to fully make it. But to come out first day of the season and get a bomb, pretty cool for him, man. And glad to see it.
One guy who really needed to step it up this season, and he's already off to a great start, is Yiddi Cappe, who went 2 for 4 with two singles, 2 base hits, and he had a pop out and a strikeout. But again, looked really good at third base tonight, Alex. This is a guy who I spoke to during the spring breakout game. He said he feels really good where he's at right now. But again, just not too much physique change. It's really a lot of the same. But we saw him out of a pretty good spring for the most part. Nothing really standing out. He was one of those guys where we were kind of neutral, and he's right now our number 9 prospect. So he really went down in our rankings. But once again, I mean, a good start for him and a good maybe mid-season transition over to Pensacola could help him out a little bit, especially with already a full season at the high level. I mean, this is a guy who I think they may have pushed a little bit too aggressively to that Beloit level, really struggled in Jupiter, never really got it going. And then still you make him go to Beloit, didn't look too good there. Now gets I guess, a revenge opportunity here or a second chance.
Yeah, it's another guy who, like you said, they challenged pretty quickly last year. Probably could have gone back to Jupiter last year, but of course, there's changes that have been made in the front office and player development department this year now. So maybe they view this guy a little bit differently, which is why he's repeating. Like we said before, they're not really pushing guys very, very hard. I don't think this guy deserved to be pushed very hard. Just because, like you said, last year was a real struggle in his first full season at the full season level. So, before that, only played 67 games in 2022. So, this guy needed a full season under his belt. Now he has it. So what's going to happen now that he has that full season? Cold weather climate made it happen pretty much right away, which is great. Let's see how that permeates over the course of the full season. Again, another guy who is 21, so still tons and tons of time, making, I think, probably full-time transition or almost full-time transition probably to third base from what we've heard, that the Marlins want him to play more third base, which I think is fair. But if he plays second base too, that's also fine. But we expect to see time from Cappe at third base as well. So to see this guy get right to it, like you said, Kevin, get 2 hits in tonight. Also had a couple hits in the prospect breakout game. But I think what you said is also very true. There's just no physical development, or really very little. We thought this guy was a guy who had a young physique that could build onto the young physique and become larger and build into more size and power. Really, from our looks at him, that hasn't really happened. So when does that happen? Right. When does that become a thing for this player is kind of my main question for Yiddi. I think if that happened and he got, built into more power, built into more physique, you'd solve things like the length in the swing. You'd solve things like being able to go to all of your fields, which I think he struggles with. So there's a few things there for Cappe. Mostly the size projection hasn't really come to fruition. So we'll see how he does with that. But again, still time, not out at all. We talked to JJ Cooper. He's not out either. So there's a lot of time. And I'm excited for this guy. I think he also will spend most of the year in Beloit repeating, but we'll see what happens with him. Don't think he's eligible for the push to AA yet. I don't think he will be, unless he really pops off. I don't think he will be over the course of this season, but we'll see. I think the Marlins will be smart to just fully cultivate this guy, kind of like we said with others that we've already talked about. So fine with seeing him back with Beloit. We'll see how it happens for him throughout the year. But yeah, really size projection is the main thing.
Last guy I'll just quickly touch on myself. Cam Barstad's the only other Beloit Sky Cardboard, a 2-hit game. Good for him. 2 multi-hit games came from Joe Mack, Yiddi Cappe, and Cam Barstad. So good for them. We'll move quickly to the roster. There's no actual graphics, so we're just going to have to pull it up like this where you cannot see our faces. But I think the big one's Ike Buxton on the pitching side, Alex. I did not expect to see Ike Buxton back in Beloit after a lot of success there, goes up, makes one start in Pensacola and really succeeded. He was there at the Fish Fest and everything. It looked like everything lined up for him to go back to Pensacola. Doesn't go back. Aside from that, really everything looks kind of normal. I know Ian Lewis is dealing with some stuff, so he's not yet in Beloit, and Jordan McCants, I think, was the one that surprised you a little bit. But aside from that, anything else that stands out to you?
Yeah, I think it's just a room thing for Buxton. He did go up to Pensacola end of year last year, and did make an outing there, but did really well with the Sky Carp. So I was pretty surprised by this one, man. 7 starts last year in 34 innings. Held guys down to a 235 batting average with a 3.71 ERA. I thought that guy did enough to maybe get the push up to the upper minors this year and get that challenge at age 23. I think it's just kind of a room thing. When you have guys like Jeff Lindgren that are taking spots at AA, it's kind of like, okay, and that's also surprising. I didn't expect that guy at AA either, but you got to get guys innings, right? And you want to see this guy pitch regularly. So I think it's more of a just a roster crunch thing. You saw it happen with Dave Myers with the Marlins, right? That guy's done everything he needs to do to get to the major leagues. He can't be there right now because of roster crunch. Same thing here. There's more guys in his way. He's still 23. There's older guys in his way. I get it. Older guys that you want to see more from that may be able to help the Marlins, especially with where they're at with pitching. I get it. You want to keep pitching depth around. So I understand. But it always hurts me to see younger guys get held back because I think that guy does belong in AA. And like you said, I'm pretty sure he was at least near or around the Fish Fest that they had. So really interesting.
There. Yeah, we spoke to him and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked to him, and he was there, and he was mentioned in the Blue Wahoos media day that we did. That he was supposed to be there. I think it was one of those last minute things, but really tough to see him get held back. Also, same thing. We're going to talk about AA, but same thing in AA with Bermudez. I think the guy belongs in AAA, so it's a room thing. It's a roster crunch, so it sucks for him, but yeah. A little weird. I think that guy's going to be fine though, and hopefully he gets the push up to higher levels here soon to AA, at least AA, maybe even AAA. Because I think Buxton is a guy that's going to come on pretty strong. I think he's pretty good out of the bullpen. So I like Ike Buxton. He was in the prospect game too. So a little weird, but more of just probably a roster crunch thing than anything else. But I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah, there's a lot to like with Buxton's profile, and I think. Maybe not now going to the bullpen, maybe when he goes up to AAA or maybe towards the back end of his time in AA, you could really make the case to throw him in the bullpen, see how that goes, give him 1 inning spurts, because at the end of the day, for some of these guys, going to the bullpen is really going to be what's going to help them really get to that next level, get to the major league level, because the Marlins are kind of set on starting pitching. I know Yuri Perez just went down with Tommy John, but you still have Luzardo, you still have Brax, you still have, we'll see with Edward, because geez, did he not look very good today in AAA Jacksonville. But, they have a lot of starting pitching. Aside from that, Alex, there's not much more to touch on with let's go to AA. That was a very fun game, 8-6 win for the Wahoos. Spoke to Tanner Allen post-game. We'll probably play some part of the clip of his post-game on this podcast, but big day for him. But let's talk about Jacob Berry. He first at bat for the guy, goes out there and hits an absolute nuke into the Pensacola Bay. Carver, anything to be excited about with Jacob Berry? I know this is a guy who we're not very high on in our prospect list. He is our number 14 prospect, but I think Berry really has a chance to take off here with Pensacola on his first full season at the AA level.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess the most encouraging thing about Jacob Berry, on top of the home run that you mentioned tonight, Kevin, is that on his minor league baseball player profile, he's listed as a first baseman. Most encouraging thing about Jacob Berry that I could say is that he's listed as a first baseman on his minor league baseball player profile. Put the guy at first base. We've been screaming about it. Put the guy at first base. I don't understand why this guy's still playing third base. Needs to be a first baseman, take some pressure off the bat, play an easier position. Doesn't really have the arm for third base, honestly, in my opinion. We've seen that permeate a bit. So, man, put the guy at first base, take the pressure off the bat, and you'll see more things like this home run that we saw tonight. I honestly do believe that. So, a good first at bat for Jacob Berry. Did speak to him as part of the Wahoos media day. really didn't say that he's made any real adjustments, but just trying to be more of a pure hitter. That came to fruition today. This was a pure hit. It was, like you said, Kevin, into the Pensacola Bay there, which was great. Awesome first impression for Barry, but how is it going to permeate? This is one game on top of a pretty subpar performance last year. So we'll see what he does. I also didn't really see anything that stood out about Jacob Barry this spring. It was a lot of ground outs, a lot of strikeouts against lesser competition or lower down competition, I guess I should say. But to see him come out and get a home run in his first game off of a starter, that's pretty awesome. So congratulations to Barry. But man, I would just really, really like to see some pressure taken off of this guy by moving him to first base full time.
Yeah, and with him, I think this guy's still young, man. There's still time. I think I'm not ready to call it quits on Barry. I know, with the prospect ranking, it may look like 14. You're telling yourself, geez, this was a first round pick. This guy was chosen before some really good players in the draft, but again, it's just one of those cases where he's gone off to a slow start. And I mean, this is an experienced hitter, man. This was a college starter at one point for a really good team. I know the defense is really what's holding him back right now. And really quickly, I don't know. We won't talk about this a lot, but Pensacola may have had the best opening day show up in terms for fans. They had a full sellout. Look at that. You can kind of see the background there with the crowd. So shout out to Pensacola. Carver and I will be there at some point this year. That's a very fun ballpark to go to. But let's keep it going. Javier Sanoja, if there is one player who got really, really pushed up, it was Sanoja. And he proved it. He had a hit. First double-A hit. Looked really good for the most part. Playing shortstop, which really stood out to me. Your thoughts on Mr. Sanoja, Carver?
Yeah, guy plays all over the place. It's crazy just the versatility of this player and then the simplicity in the bat. Like you see today, just gets a simple hit. That's what this guy is. That's what this guy does. He just gets simple hits, man. And he goes out today and actually gets two. So 2 hits for this guy today. 2 singles. They were pretty simple. Just poking the ball, just getting the bat on the ball and getting on base is what this guy does. There you go, right to the opposite field, just reaching out, going to the opposite field, as you can see if you're watching us on YouTube. This is awesome. It's just a really, really cool kind of guy that is unheralded because he doesn't hit home runs. But what this guy does for you is he plays basically every position on the baseball field and then just gets on base. So this is a guy who could be a top of the order bat, doesn't strike out basically at all, just gets on base, gets these simple, easy hits, and is just a pure scrappy player. I really like guys like this. We've seen players like this come through the Marlins organization in the past. You see it now with guys like, I'm not saying that this guy is Luis Arias, but you see guys like Luis Arias, Jose Altuve, guys like that. That's kind of the profile that Javier Sanoja could potentially get to one day if he reaches a extremely high ceiling. At the very least, this guy's just going to basically give you a super high OBP, especially at the minor league level. We'll see how it translates to the majors one day. But to see him make his AA debut today, get on base twice via these simple, easy hits, pushed as a 21-year-old that was in spring training with the Marlins the whole way, was one of actually the last cuts. We expect him to be one of the first, but he was actually one of the last to go out of Marlins camp. So super cool to see. The one guy that they pushed, Kevin, like you said, the one guy I think that they pushed the most is Javier Sanoja, and to see it pay off for them is awesome. So this guy definitely made an impression on the Marlins this spring. 21-year-old at AA having success. Can't say enough. Pretty great. I think you're going to see him in the lineup very regularly because of how many positions he plays. And I'm super proud of this kid. It's really cool for him. I'm glad to see this.
And what I really like about Sanoja is the fact that he's going to take advantage of this ballpark. For those that don't know, Pensacola is a very pitcher-friendly ballpark. Very difficult to get the ball out of there. I mean, opposed to AAA Jacksonville, which is very hitter-friendly. Maybe now a little bit more pitcher-friendly. We'll see. We'll have to wait. But again, this is a guy who's going to use those gaps. He's going to make the best out of every single part of that field. Opposite field guy, we just saw with that last clip there for those on YouTube. This is a guy who I'm very high on, Alex. Very surprised they put him at shortstop. We rarely saw him at second and center field. Excited to see maybe they push him a little bit at shortstop if he succeeds there. You have yourself a very nice shortstop prospect, which could maybe make the push over to AAA next year. We'll see. But the one guy I want to talk to, and I think I'm very, very happy about, is Cody Morissette. hits an absolute nuke for the Wahoos. Very happy for this guy. Had a lot of injuries, ended up having a 17 homer season between the high and the double A level. Alex, I think this is a guy who I'm still very high on, despite not being in our top 30. I think he has a lot of power potential, and keep him at third or second base, and Cody Morissette is really going to succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. And to hit this home run in a tie game too was awesome. So really cool to see from Morissette, which was super cool. The home run that you can see hits a solo home run in a tie baseball game to break it, which is great. Awesome for him. Awesome to see it. But just like you said, Kevin, this guy has had a little bit of a journey, kind of like you just said as well. The ankle thing that he went through basically shattered his ankle and required a very, very serious surgery, which took him basically 2 years to come back from. So to see him come back to Pensacola and hit this home run in their opening day game to break a tie, I know that he was very, very happy about that, I am sure. But all of his teammates and all of his managers and coaches describe him as a leader, which is great. And I'm really, really happy to see that the leader of Pensacola teams in the past and other teams in the past in the Marlins system, Beloit as well, get this kind of moment for himself after going through what he's went through on opening day is awesome. So super cool to see this. Plays both middle and field positions, can even do some third base, I think, as well. So some versatility to him as well. Like to see this from Cody Morissette, who we think could be pretty good if he comes all the way back from some missed time. So glad to see this from Morissette.
Maybe he'll.
The last thing I'll say about Sanoja.
Go ahead, go for it.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say about Sanoja real quick before we move on is a stolen base potential, because I love Javier Sanoja. Stolen base potential, 37 steals last year. So that guy can get on base and do damage. It's going to be great. And then in front of guys like or even in front of guys like Morissette or behind guys like Morissette, you're going to do pretty well. I think this Pensacola team's pretty fun in a scrappy kind of way.
Yeah, 100%. And the one thing I like about Morissette is really that power potential. I mean, you don't see many Marlins prospect infielders that have the potential that he does with his power. I think that's really one of the things that really just stands out for me with Morissette. Maybe he'll spend a full season at AA Pensacola, but there's a good chance if he really gets it going, he will see himself in AAA Jacksonville. But we'll talk about that level soon. I want to talk about Evan Fitter. You spoke to him on media day. What stood out? Really, just a really not the greatest start for him. Almost hit 100 pitches, but as of going 4 1/3, 10 hits, 5 runs, 4 earned, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. Just doesn't look like that Evan Fitter we saw in Beloit or even at the start of his Pensacola career.
Yeah, I mean, so you see a fairly sizable righty at 6'3". He's decent size. He's not like the biggest guy in the world, but he's decent size. High school pitcher who's missed a bit of time. I think he went through Tommy John early in his career, and now he's back. I asked him actually how he thought his health stood up last year, and he said he actually, even though he never wound up on the injured list, he did kind of feel it kind of wearing down. He did go through a little bit where he was kind of limited with the arm. So you kind of worry about how the health permeates with this guy, and how advanced he is because of the missed time, and is he going to miss more time? I think as long as this guy's healthy, he's going to be okay. It's 3 good pitches. I think he's going to be fine. But man, honestly, from what I've seen so far from Fitterer, I do think he has some major league potential. But it's just like you said, it's a lot of straight stuff. It's not a ton of like plus stuff that you see to this player. And that's why you see him get barreled up for like 10 hits tonight, right? So I really don't think his stuff is playing plus right now. I think that's kind of what he has to figure out, is getting back the full potential of his stuff, which I think he does have potential for it. I just don't think it's all the way there yet for this player coming out of spring training. I really didn't see it in spring training either. From what I saw of him, it was only a little bit that I saw in spring training, but I really didn't see a ton. So can he get it back? Yeah, definitely can. Still 23. There's still time playing at the AA level for the first time. Maybe you give up 10 hits. Maybe you can readjust. So there's time, and there's a ways to go. Does have 3-4 pitches to him, like I said. So there's time, but just really haven't seen it really come to fruition for this pitcher yet. So we'll see what happens. Is he a starter? Is he a bullpen pitcher? We'll see. I don't think you have to make that decision right now. I think you'll see him start most of the year this year. So only 2 strikeouts tonight. Like I said, stuff's not really playing up. We'll see. But there's potential. So I'm not all the way out yet, but we'll see what happens.
I think the one guy we really need to talk about here is Mr. Tanner Allen. What a night for him. Plays very close to home here in Pensacola. He's from Mobile, Alabama, very close to Pensacola. He ends up having a big day going. I'm going to look for a stat line. Goes 3 for 4 with a double, 4 RBIs. What a night for Mr. Tanner Allen. We spoke to him post game. Very humble guy. Very, very well spoken. Alex, what stood out to you about Tanner Allen? He had a great season with Beloit last year. Gets up to the Double A level. Looks all right, but now is really going to play every day. No Victor Mesa Jr., no Griffin Conine, no Troy Johnson back in the outfield. Not even Paul McIntosh, who played a couple of games in the outfield there for the Wahoos. But really quickly, before Tanner Allen, the one guy I do want to mention very quickly, because I don't think he deserves a whole section, is Shane Sasaki. Had his, I believe, a 2-hit night for the Wahoos. So good to see him get it going there. His first career Double-A game. But let's talk a little bit about Tanner Allen, Alex.
Yeah, so 3 for 4. Awesome to see. 3 hits for this guy. Did make it up to Pensacola for a small cup of coffee. I think he made it up there for their last 20 games or something like that last year. It wasn't very, very long. You have to check the stat on that about how many games it actually was. I think it was 20 games or something, maybe even less. But awesome to see this guy back in Double-A. Lefty hitter. I'm a lefty myself, so I always kind of take cadence to lefties. Super cool. This guy was really acting like a true teammate in spring training. So I kind of asked him tonight, the connections that he made in spring training and the fixes that he made. Had a great answer to that question. We'll probably have that a little bit later on, but just mostly fixes to the lower half is kind of what he said, and getting back to what worked for him in college. So super cool. Another guy kind of like McCants that we mentioned before, that's getting back to what worked for him before. Try not to do too much, and just making those fixes with the lower half, the hips and the legs, that will allow him to kind of cover more plate and just get more bat on the ball, as you can see right here, going the opposite field if you're watching on YouTube. So super cool to see him get 3 hits, just kind of be a little bit more simple at the plate, and come up in a big spot for the Wahoos tonight, which was really cool. As you said, Kevin, super cool guy, super nice. Great answers tonight, and it's great to see this from Tanner. Tons of time still. I mean, he's 25, so he's kind of on the older end, a little bit on the older end for Double-A. So maybe the Marlins challenge him a bit. Maybe he can get up to Triple-A this year. Maybe, if they really truly need him, just because he can play, I'm pretty sure, at least both corner spots. So the Marlins may need him this year, maybe not, but I think this is a guy that may come to next spring training with a chance to really impress. So super cool. I think he's going to get a real shot to play every day with Pensacola. And even if he gets called up to Triple-A, he'll get a regular shot to play there as well. So yeah, to see him come out immediately and show kind of these fixes that he made and he told us about tonight is super awesome. And it's great. The Marlins getting something, a little bit more out of that 2021 draft, which is cool to see. So great to see from Tanner Allen.
Yeah, the one thing I really liked about Allen was that opposite field power a lot. I mean, opposite field hit, but he does it in the 9 spot. Usually the 9-hole guy is really a guy who doesn't hit too much, really just going to be more of a slap guy. But Tanner Allen really got it going, and I think little by little we're going to see a bit more from him. But the one thing, I think this goes back to what we said with Banfield a couple times, is just consistency. Beloit was his the true first time he had shown any sort of offensive production, like positive offensive production. Hoping to see it here with Pensacola, and he has a good chance to do it, and he's already off to a great start. Let's take a quick look at their roster.
That's a big spot. That's a big spot, by the way, before we get too far, Kevin. That's a big spot. Tie game, bases loaded, I think, and he comes up with a 2-run single. Let's go. Star of the game for sure. And I think that was the game-winning hit. Wound up being the game-winning hit for the Wahoos. So super cool, man. And glad to see that from Tanner. I have hope for him. I think that he could do well. Even though he's on the older side, I think he could still do well and have a major league ceiling. So it's cool.
Yep. All right, quick look at the preliminary opening day roster. This ended up being the actual opening day roster. I think the biggest one on the pitching side for me, Alex, is first of all, Jeff Lindgren. I think he should be in AAA. No need to have him in AA. Very surprised. I think he started the year in AAA, funny enough, and they demoted him to AA. So that's one that stood out to me. Same thing with your boy Lincoln Hensman, who's now in who's in AA. But the biggest one of them all, the one that actually has some prospect pedigree left, is Zach McCambley. Had no need to be back in AA. I thought he was ready to go to AAA. This is a guy who really made a name for himself, not only at AA when he came back and started being a reliever, but as well in the Arizona Fall League, had a really good impression. So something there to keep an eye out on. Aside from that, everything looks kind of the same. You were going to have to correct me. Did Harrison's phone go to high A? If so, very interesting to have that jump so quickly. But maybe at some point they do seem demoted. I mean, we see that a lot with Double A. They bring a lot of guys onto that roster, and then you kind of see some movement. Aside from that, I like every other assignment for the most part. Tough to see Paul McIntosh back in Double A, but again, gives them an opportunity to really just play every day or split time with Bennett Hostetler.
Yeah, I think Spawn is still there for now. Not sure if they're going to send him back. I'm not really sure, but I think he's still there for now. But yeah, I think you pretty much covered it. Another guy that I'm kind of surprised is back in Double A is Bermudez. I think he kind of deserved the push to Triple A as well. But it's more of a room thing than anything else. They definitely want these guys to get innings. So where are you going to be able to get innings, right? Definitely with Lindgren as well. Where is he going to be able to get innings? Do they have guys over him? Maybe now with the claim of Gutierrez, maybe he gets pushed up. Who knows? There's some room to go there. But yeah, some of these guys on this roster definitely should be, I think, up in AAA. Even Paul Campbell, I think. I mean, that guy's made his major league debut. I know he's been out for a while with the suspension, but I think that guy could be up in AAA as well. So yeah, there's some moving parts here. I think a lot of this will be moving throughout the year. It's just the opening day roster. It doesn't mean that it's going to be permanent. So yeah, there's definitely going to be moving parts here, and we talked about a couple of them that are going to go up probably pretty quickly if AAA needs help. So Marlins call somebody up, you're going to see one of these guys go up. So it's going to be part of it. But yeah, overall with this roster, pretty much like we expected, honestly, Kevin. PMAC being back in AA sucks, but Will Banfield's going to catch every day. And then you got the other guy that they just claimed as well, Pareda. So they got him as well. So, there's part of it. It's all part of it. So it's a numbers game. PMAC, I know, understands that. He said that to us in media day that, I understand it. So, and he's happy to be back in Pensacola too, because I know he likes it there. It's a familiar area for him. So cool, man. It's really a decent roster. Not as star-studded, I don't think, as years past, but I think there's definitely talent on this team. But there will be moving parts as the year goes along, probably pretty quickly, actually, too.
All righty, let's wrap it up here with AAA Jacksonville. Not too much to get into with this team. They already started their season, actually. They're like a week in. But I think it's worth mentioning Tristan Gray, man. So we're recording this after the first slate of games for every team, obviously except Jacksonville. But Tristan Gray, man, what a start to this season this guy has gotten off to, Alex. I mean, 4 straight games with a home run, hits another one today in Edward Cabrera's rehab start. This is a guy who really deserved to make the roster, just like Dane Myers. He really has nothing else to prove at this AAA level. And, we'll get into a couple of those guys as well. With Dane, you have Tristan Gray, you have Troy Johnston, all guys who just have nothing to prove at this level. But Tristan Gray feels like if it's not Dane, it's him as the number one guy to probably get the call up soon. Also 40-man guy.
Yeah, Tristan Gray, like you said, lefty hitter who's hitting 345, 387, 828 so far this year for Jacksonville in 7 games. I know it's only 7 games. I get it. Has 4 home runs in 4 games, including this one tonight if you're watching on YouTube. Nothing left to prove in AAA. Neither does Dane Myers, just like you said. But like you said, the Marlins are going to need help during the season, and these guys are probably going to be first in line. Skip Schumacher has said that Dane will be first in line. I think if they need an infielder, that Tristan will be first in line. Because these guys are hitting. They're hitting immediately. They hit all throughout spring. Tristan Gray was hitting home runs in spring training with the Marlins against Major League stuff. This guy's got nothing left to prove. I think he had the first home run of spring for the Marlins with Tristan Gray. So,
yeah, he did. Yeah.
Pretty cool to see that they have some help there if they need it. And these guys deserve their shot. So I don't really have that much else to say about AAA. Just that there's guys there that are much deserving of their chance in the major leagues. And we didn't even mention Troy, but you know how I feel about him as well. That's all I'll say about AAA. Pitching a little thin. They have some hitting that can help out if they need it. I think they will need it eventually. And if they do, they have some guys that they can call on that are much deserving of their shot.
Yeah. Darren McCacken's gotten off to a very nice start. Recently had to call up Matt Andrees. They called up Kent Emmanuel as well. Just some guys. Vladimir Gutierrez started the year in Jacksonville. Didn't really even pitch a game. Gets called up right away. So, it just goes to show that right now, AAA Jacksonville for the Marlins is really just that spot for kind of no offense, quadruple A guys, and then the AAA guys who really do deserve their shot. We'll see what happens with Jacob Maya. He was on that roster to start the season, ends up getting DFA'd for the Emmanuel Rivera move there. But Carver, anything else to wrap up the show? I think we've gone through every single level. FCL, DSL not yet starting. I think those don't start till I want to say May. So we still have a long way to go, or May or June for them. But any other level, any other guy that's worth touching on before we wrap up?
No, I think we pretty much called it out. FCL, like you said, starting a little sooner this year. I think they wrap up like just after the draft, actually. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Marlins and how every team kind of manages guys that they draft, because there's not going to be an FCL to send them to anymore, really, unless it's for a few games, maybe. So it's going to be interesting to see with the FCL starting up. I think very shortly, actually, not very long from now, that the FCL should be starting. That they it's a half season, as we know. So I think it starts up pretty shortly here. It runs through August, and there's not going to be anywhere to put draft guys. So it's going to be interesting to see how they manage that as well on the short season level. We'll see how they do with that, but we'll talk about that, I'm sure, on a future show. But yeah, overall state of the system, I would say, is middling, in my opinion. There's guys that they've brought in that I think will do well for them. I like Sasaki. I like John Cruz. I like these longer-term guys that they've brought in. But guys that can help right now, we called out a few, but on the pitching side, it's wearing thin. It's just an interesting spot for the Marlins to be in. I don't think that the Major League team really has a true identity right now. Are they going to compete, or are they going to rebuild? I think that decision is going to need to be made very quickly. And if they do need to rebuild, we'll be talking about more guys, I'm sure, at a future date. I think they do need to rebuild, in my opinion, but we'll see what happens with them. But yeah, no, a good opening day, a good first game. We got many more to go, over 100 more to go. So we'll see what happens at each level. And then, of course, the short season as well. So we'll continue to talk about minor leaguers. Pleasure to be on with you, Kev. This was great. Right at the hour mark, too. So awesome.
All right.
Really cool show. Our first of many. We'll be back this year. We're planning to do, I think, weekly Monday articles on the site as well, about just a catch up from the week. Monday's the minor league off day, so we'll probably catch them up on the site. Me and Kevin will probably split them up. So stay tuned for that on Fish on First. But other than that, I think it was a good day overall, and I'm excited for what the future of 2024 holds for the Miami Marlins minor league system. It's gonna be fun.
Yep. So as always, make sure like and subscribe. 5-star review. This podcast sponsored by MPT College Consulting. Make sure to go check them out at mptcollegeconsulting.com to book yourself a free consultation. So you and Alex Krutchik, funny enough, will actually be out there in Jupiter tomorrow, watching Noble Myers' first start of 2024. A lot to be excited there. That's a very fun team. Hopefully you guys get to talk to him and a couple other of those guys. Anyways, from Carver, we will see you guys all probably next week. We'll probably film something, every week or every 2 weeks, but we'll be back soon. As always, go Fish.